Welcome back to the Sustainability Podcast. My name is Gavin Simon, and today I'm joined by David Clark and Jane Arnold. Thank you so much for being here. Do you want to just give a short intro to yourself and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. David Clark, I've worked in industrial gas industry for the last 28 years, mostly in our large industries division, which is producing our bulk oxygen, nitrogen, argon. And my first love is in process control, digital technologies, and I've throughout my career I have been stayed very close to that. And in the last 5 years, I've been highly focused in AI, digital technologies, asset performance management, and then in the last 2 years, I've taken a very high focus in data integrity, data quality topics.
And Jane, what about yourself?
So, hello, Jane Arnold. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Aperio. And Aperio is focused on data anomaly detection and time series data. My background prior to that, very similar to David's. I started as a control engineer and spent the first 25 years in the field solving problems with operations. And then later on, got the opportunity to be a plant manager and then a senior vice president over manufacturing technology at a mid-sized chemical company. And joined Aperio in March.
Amazing. Well, today, like I said, we're going to be really diving into all of these reporting regulations and compliance regulations, and I think there's definitely multiple layers to those responsibilities. And David and Aperio, Jane and David bring a really interesting story today. I don't think it's a very straightforward story, but it's really interesting to kind of understand why your work really rolls up into the reporting compliance responsibilities. And David, I kind of just wanted to speak with you about your experience in terms of compliance and reporting in your career and the teams that you've helped build out.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and it's a fascinating story to tell. You can look at it from many different perspectives. We worked on a project in the last few years to really create an automated reporting system for our production reporting. The data that we collect and aggregate ultimately is responsible for, it performs the background of our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions reporting for CSRD reporting. It's very critical data. There's a lot of regulations around the accuracy of that data. And traditionally, the focus was how do we make sure that the data that we collected by those sensors was correct. And so the discussion was about calibration, about training and qualification, and everyone was happy with that. Now there's a lot more intelligence in asking those questions, and the questions are more about, well, how do you ensure that the data, by the time you aggregate it and report it, is still the same quality that it was when you grabbed it from the sensor? And those are the questions that we're starting to see now. And so a big focus that we had in the our data reporting system is answering that question. How do we ensure that the integrity of that data is maintained as it comes through the aggregation tools and is actually reported?
Amazing. And Jane, tell me more about Aperio and what you guys do in terms of how do you play into the reporting and compliance responsibilities and how you support your clients in those times.
So Aperio is focused on anomaly detection and time series data. So we have AI-built micro models that are looking for deviations against the machine learning model, all the way from the sensor through your data historian and even into the cloud if needed. And so we're looking for all of the issues that cause the data that you're reporting out on, where there could be a problem, and actually highlighting it. I have to add a little anecdote, and I don't think I've told you this before, David, but we met before I decided to join full-time, and you had added your environmental tags to the Aperio environment, and I was on the call where you opened up and saw that one of the transmitters had failed, and you were so excited, and I got excited as well. I was like, this is actually working, and this is really cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I remember that specifically. We are dealing with upwards of almost 1 million tags, time series data, and no human could ever pay attention to all that. And so the digital tools in many ways are helping us know where to look.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to tell us to look at something that is fine, right? And the fact that with that huge portfolio of 1 million tags, I can open up the tool and it says, hey, you need to look at that particular tag. And that was a clear example of that. I was like, wow, a kid in a candy store, this is a great toy that I'm playing with here.
That's awesome.
So very valuable.
So when you look at the tags that are being reported, aggregated up, as David mentioned, he has a step now where they can verify that the data quality is good. And they check it on a regular basis, from what I understand, and they can take proactive measures in maintenance if they're seeing something that is starting to deviate.
Right. And I wanted to ask you a second part of my first question to you. Why is it important to have what is the importance of data quality in terms of reporting?
So it's you want to make sure that anything that you issue in a final report is as accurate as humanly or AI-based possible.
Right.
And because you get graded, so if it's an environmental report and it's a third-party system, the EPA or something like that, if they actually come back and do measurements and it's different, well, then there's a problem there. So you want to make sure everything is accurate.
Yeah.
And all throughout my career, anytime I'm doing process control, APC, predictive maintenance, things like that, you always need to make sure the data going into those models is as accurate as possible so you get the best outcome from the software tools.
Right. I mean, between the environmental regulations and also supply chain, there's a lot of communication of information between people that you work with and within your value chain. And so I think obviously you want to start off with the best data as possible because you're playing telephone in a way between each other. And so if you start off with one thing, you end up with another, you're going to mess up a lot of reports along the way. David, I wanted to ask you, you've told me previously that it was a big part of your job into building out a data team. And I wanted to ask you specifically in terms of when it was coming time that you chose to find a solution to help you better complete your responsibilities at in your company. Why did you choose Aperio, and what really stood out, and maybe what were you looking for in the first place?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think our criteria that we developed when we were looking for a technology such as Aperio was built on some really lessons that we had learned in some previous work that we had done. And really it was centered around the idea that, we have the physical world we live in, real plants, real equipment. And if you look at the industry, we're now replicating that in the digital or metaverse, right? And there's all these purported benefits that come from that. One of the things that we don't talk a lot about is the complexity of what we're building is very costly. It's a lot to keep up and maintain with that. And so we've gone and said we would like to build these vast data analytical models to help us find opportunities to run our processes more efficient and more reliable and safer. But we discovered that when the technology we deploy requires a lot of human training and intervention, it's a heavy lift. And what's even more challenging is that you have to maintain it. It's just like a physical plant. You literally have to maintain that digital ecosystem, which is even more of a heavy lift. And so when we realized we needed some tools to help us solve the data quality challenge, we were sensitive to that. And we realized that the tools needed to be doing their own lifting. We really didn't have the resources, especially for a population of data that we have, a huge amount of data, to have people doing manual activities.
Right.
So what we realized is one of the most important criteria for the tool and the technology is fully unsupervised, for example, machine learning in this case, right? We just wanted to feed the data in and not have to do any manual training. And that was technologies that could not do that just didn't make the cut.
Interesting. Well, thank you. And Jane, obviously in my discussions with you over the past few months, you've had a long career and a very extensive and a impactful career. And I wanted to ask you, in this stage of your career, why did you choose to work with Aperio? You could have chosen the cream of the crop. So I'm just interested what really pulled you to it.
Well, I did choose the cream of the crop.
Okay.
So there's that. So seriously though, I was deciding whether or not I was going to actually retire early or if I was going to continue to work. And I wanted to, I was investigating ways, where can I have the most impact on manufacturing, because I
Right.
spent so many years of my life mining data to solve problems. And I kept in touch with Jonas Helgren, the CEO, for over the years, and he kept inviting me and inviting me, and so I started working part time, and then that's when I met David and got all excited, but I feel like that with this solution, which is fully unsupervised machine learning out of the box, that we're able to make a positive impact on the people who are working with data to make their jobs a little easier.
Right.
And I'm hoping to that continues, and then I can actually be part of that going forward.
Amazing. Well, I think it's really interesting, and I'm starting out in my career, and I honestly feel like I'm the type of person that's not going to want to stop. I'm just a person that doesn't really sit around during the weekends, and I see myself in you in terms of like, yeah, I'm just going to keep going. And I just want to say thank you so much one more time for participating in this discussion, and I'm looking forward to continuing on this discussion later on in our session, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Jane and
Thank you,
David.
Thank you for having us.
Perfect.